Hello ladies and gentlemen, welcome to this video. My name is Vlad. I'll be your captain today on this long-haul flight from Frankfurt to Tokyo as requested by a subscriber because, well, he's going to be doing this flight in real life. So we're here on the Frankfurt stand of 23 with the beautiful Queen of the Skies 747-8 of Lufthansa. Delivery, just as you guys voted, Lufthansa Retro. If I could vote on my poll, this would be delivery I would be voting to. So yeah, so far so good. I've got the operational flight plan done, and my suggestion is me and you guys as flight crew, we should head out to the crew briefing room to make a little analysis about the route, about the load of the aircraft, how much payload we're gonna take, how much fuel, how's gonna be the weather, what are the NOTAMs, and all that stuff. Because, well, this is the interesting part about the long haul. At least I find it fascinating, because we're sitting here in Frankfurt and we're gonna be in Tokyo in 12 hours. There's a lot of stuff that can change in 12 hours, so we need to be prepared. And plus, we're gonna cross so many airspaces that, yeah, it's a good thing to be definitely prepared. So let's head out to the crew briefing room and do the analysis. Here we have the sim brief document. Flight Lufthansa 716 from Frankfurt to Tokyo Haneda. Our alternate is Romeo Juliet Bravo Bravo. I'm trying to do this flight as realistic as possible regarding the real life flight. So in sim, we have at the moment about 20 minutes to our preparation for the flight, start up the aircraft and get off block. So I anticipate a slight delay, but that's okay, because if you go and check flight radar, usually the flights leave with a little bit of delay, so that's no problem for us. So let's just read through a couple of basic information here. Departure time, that's okay. Arrival time, so we have an expected air time of 12 hours and 23 minutes. The block time is 12 hours and 48, that's okay. The airframe is different. It's going to be Alpha Bravo Yankee Tango because of delivery, but that's totally fine. Initial altitude is going to be flight level 330. Cruise profile with a cost index of 320. Route distance pretty lengthy, and just talking about the route here, you probably know about the geopolitical situation, and you know that the Russian airspace is closed at the moment for a lot of European flights. So here in this map, you can really nicely see our route, and you can see this dotted line, which is the Great Circle track, which is basically the direct line from Frankfurt to Tokyo. And you probably note that our route, even though it looks kind of linear, it's actually not, because, well, you know, the Earth is round, so the maps have some distortion there, and because of that, well, our route takes us about 2 hours longer to do than through the Russian airspace. And I just want you to think a little bit about how much fuel, pollution, financial savings you lose by doing this longer route, which is really a shame, because just think about the 748. They do this flight every day, and the average fuel burn on the cruise, it's around 8 or 9 tons per hour. So 2 hours extra, that's about 16 to 18 tons plus on every flight. Multiply this by a year, because this flight is done every day during the year, at least as far as I know, and just yeah, just think about it a little bit. So I don't know, but it really saddens me, all this political stuff, because there is so much more that could be done. Anyways, this was just a very simple thing that you can see here on the sim brief, and even though we are in the sim, this reflects quite interestingly the reality that we have. But anyways, let's just move further away. I'll open here the OFP PDF because it's easier for me to scroll through. Note one thing, it has 247 pages, which is very interesting, and I'll tell you why in a second. I just want to make sure that I check the passenger count. So we have 395 passengers on board, not in the 400 numbers. And I just want to check here the fuels, because I'm used to the OFP layout here and it's easier to me to read through. So our payload here says it's 41 tons, but according to the SSG, I'm going to be take 48 tons of payload. Our zero fuel weight is going to be 261.2. Takeoff weight expected is 402 tons. Our maximum is 447, so we need to account for that. Landing weight 280, and our maximum, which is the limited one, is 312 tons landing weight. So that's good as well to have into consideration. Here's all the same information. Troposphere is quite high, so we're going to be flying below the tropopause. That means we might encounter some weather, but that's fine. We have our route, which is very, very lengthy, and we're going to pay attention to that because, well, the FMC just takes a limited amount of waypoints, I think a maximum of 120. And we have so many waypoints on this route because we cross so many different airspaces, airways, and so on, that we cannot insert the whole route in one take. Otherwise, it will simply crash the sim, the FMC will give you an error, and yeah, it's a real-life limitation too. We need to pay attention to that. We can already see as well that we're going to be departing runway 18 out of here, out of Frankfurt, so that's good. Here we're going to the fuel. Taxi fuel 680 kilos, trip 122 tons, contingency 5%, alternate, final reserve, no additional at the moment. We might add some additional in a second, and we should uplift at least 142 tons of fuel. That will give us around 14.5 hours of flight. That is good. Just make a note here, guys. This is important here, and we will pay attention to this part here, the takeoff weight correction. So say we are 1,000 kilos above our takeoff weight. We need to compensate to the planned block, adding plus 348 kilos of fuel. Or if we have a lower takeoff weight, we can take or we can plan with a less amount of fuel. Also, for example, let's say for some operational or ATC situation, something doesn't allow us to fly at our optimum altitude that's planned into the route. So we fly 2,000 feet below. We have a fuel penalty, which we have to account, and that gets even bigger if we fly 4,000 feet below the optimum planned altitudes. This part here is very cool too for this long haul flight because, well, if you're doing a 1 or 2 hours flight, maybe it's not a big deal, but if you're flying for 12 hours, everything counts, and that's really cool. Here we have all the list of all the points, and note one thing, I think it's here exactly. So we have the boundaries of the FIRs. The FIR is the flight information region, which is basically the zone that each country is responsible for. One country can have multiple FIRs. For example, Portugal has 2, the Lisbon one and the Santa Maria, which is the Azores one. And we have all the boundaries here, so we can basically see what is the region that we're flying in. A very good example here, for example, we have Sofia, Istanbul, Ankara, and then we have here Tbilisi, Baku. But finally, when we get into China, I think here, Lanzhou, then we go to the Beijing FIR, and finally, yeah, Shenyang, Shanghai, and here we enter the South Korean FIR, Incheon, really cool, and finally we come into the Japan ones, Fukuoka, and that's the only one probably. Yeah, exactly. All right, perfect. Here we have our alternate route in case we need. We have 2 alternates here. One is longer than the other. We plan for the longest one to take the most amount of fuel, but we have another option which is closer. Here we have all the expected departures and arrivals, what we're going to be doing, the ILSs, and we even have the wind component here, so that's pretty cool. Alright, this is all about the temperatures, and finally, after all these waypoints here, we start with the weather briefing, of course. This here, let's just check how it is in Japan for now. Wind 0207, good visibility, broken. So far it's not raining, and I don't see any rain forecast, which is really good because I was a little bit afraid to arrive into Japan and to catch some bad weather because I think it's beautiful. Japan, we already did a live there, and I was really amazed by how amazing and all the mountains and stuff. So saddens me a little bit that we're gonna probably encounter some clouds, so we will not be able to see the ground so nicely. But so far, at least, it's not raining, and that is good. But everything could change in 12 hours. And finally, this is the part where I wanted to get, which is the NOTAMs. And basically, the rest of the pages, we are at page 27 here, all the way through about page 240, it's going to be all NOTAMs. And it just amazes me because, well, if you would be flying in real life, probably you would need to do at least a more or less accurate check of all the NOTAMs. And you might ask me, well, why there are so many NOTAMs? Well, because we're gonna fly for so long and we cross so many different airspaces, and there's basically so much stuff happening, and this is all the information that it's published regarding important stuff that could affect the flight. So we're not going to be reading through all of this, of course, but in real life, you would do this at least somewhat accurately. The SIM brief, or let's call it the company, notes regarding the automatic cost index, and this is really important because you have a plan for one cost index. If you, for example, especially on long-haul flights, decide to fly with a different cost index, it might affect your fuel consumption and your fuel spending, and you might not get enough fuel, especially if you use a higher cost index than planned. Yeah, this is important, and this is another one which remembers me the Air Canada Gimli glider. Flight release units, all flight crew please pay special attention to the unit selection when generating a flight plan. Failure to identify the correct units when refueling prior to flight can result in departing with insufficient fuel and or an erroneous payload. So really cool that SimBrief did this here. Definitely adds a touch of real life. Finally, here we have our weather charts. First, a normal route, just to see it here. And this is the really cool thing about the SimBrief, that it gave you here 3 segments of your route. The first segment, let's say, the middle segment, and the final segment. But if you take a look at the date and hour of the chart, so see here, this is for the 12 UTC on the 5th of April, which is today. We're departing around 12 UTC, so we should, for example, 2 hours in the flight will probably be somewhere around here. So because the significant weather charts are done in 6 hours intervals, this is the most optimum chart to be analyzed for this segment of the flight. So really cool. Here, for example, we see a little bit of area of clear air turbulence. So we would brief the cabin crew to say that, hey, our departure might be a little bit bumpy, so maybe delay a little bit your services, or we're going to maintain the seatbelt sign on for a little bit longer. Be careful with that because, well, clear air turbulence, guys, if you don't know what is that, that's basically, well, clear air. That means no clouds, but it might be still turbulent, and it's very dangerous because the people, especially the passengers, they could look outside in the window and there's no clouds, it's going to be fine. They take their seatbelts off and then it gets really bumpy and somebody gets injured. So that's important stuff. Finally, here over the Black Sea, we're going to cross a jet stream at flight level 340 with a speed of around 95 knots. And this is the low pressure right there, a jet stream coming up right there. Let's go into the middle segment. If you see here, for example, 18 UTC already, so really cool that SimBrief does this stuff, basically picks up the best charts, and I don't know, I find this fascinating. So far here, crossing Kazakhstan, nothing significant, and entering there, China looks good too. And final segment there, probably the worst one here, about the middle, coming from the middle of China. We're gonna ride the jet stream, which is good because we're gonna be flying quite faster there. 115 knots there of speed, and coming to 135 there. Wow, it's an area of clear air turbulence, but we should about exit that. Finally here, South Korea and into Japan. Close to Japan we have a clear air turbulence area as well. So yeah, looks like we're gonna have a few moments there of turbulence, or at least an expected area of turbulence, so we would definitely brief that with the cabin crew. Finally, 3 charts for the average winds for 18 UTs, actually about 12 UTC, 18 hours exactly. Level 330, correction, 340, which is the most interesting one. If you can see, the trend of the wind is about always to Japan, so this is really good. That means we're going to be riding the tailwind that will push us quicker to our destination. And finally, for level 390 as well, the winds look to be good. Perfect. This is the vertical chart. Here we can make an analysis as well on the terrain. If you can see here, we cross 2 areas of pretty high terrain, especially one here above 10,000 feet and close to 10,000 feet right there, about the middle of the flight. So important for our situational awareness. I don't know why the SimBrief keeps giving me this descent here to level 270. We're gonna definitely be ignoring that, and I'll just maintain 330 and then step climb to 35, finally 37 and 39 at the very end. All right, so far we did a check of the route, we did a check of weights, fuel, all the payloads, all the stuff. We did a check of the weather. I will use just a little bit here the infrared satellite. Yeah, so far this looks about right. I have windy here open too. This is for the arrival time. The prediction for Japan. As you can see here, unfortunately, it's going to be probably almost entirely covered in clouds, especially here the area of Tokyo. So yeah, probably is going to be definitely a area of a lot of clouds. All right, so we are definitely late now. We have 5 minutes until off-block time. Let's go into the aircraft and get going. Yep, let's go. Welcome to the cockpit of the 747-8. Again, this is the SSG model, latest beta version, and just make sure that a couple of things are done. Parking brake should be set. Fuel cutoff switches are off, throttles are on idle, the gear is down, flaps and spoilers are retracted, and here on the overhead, well, it's not raining, just make sure the wipers are in the off position. So that's good. Let's take a seat here, take a look at the EFB here. So we have a couple of doors open to the GPU and the shocks are set. I'm going to start with the pre-flight, starting up the aircraft. And then finally, we're going to be loading it up, programming box, and doing our departure briefing. Right, the fuel is on board, so we have 142.5. That's really good. And that means we're going to go with the seatbelt sign on, turn on the fuel pumps. And are you guys ready? Departure briefing. So we're flying Boeing 747 Queen of the Skies 8 version, flight Lufthansa 716. No temps are checked about there. I think nothing significant on the apart from closed taxiways, which will not affect us. The weather is rift, bumpy departure, at least as we expect, and we need to be careful with the embedded cumulonimbus that could be expecting. Because the weather, the temperature actually is at 17 so far. I will not elect to use anti-ice, but we are going to be leaving the switches on auto through the climb out and let the airplane manage that situation there. Weather radar will be on my side. And for the airport layout, this is where the interesting stuff happens, because we are such a big aircraft that we have taxi limitations. So we need to go to this special chart here, aerodrome ground movement chart, taxi restrictions for, and here is our aircraft 747-8. And just to make sure that we're going to comply with everything, we are here on stand Alpha 23. Note that, for example, here November 5, deep down there is restricted for us. And yeah, by the way, red color and the green one is not permitted too, so I need to pay attention to that. But we're going to be pushing back here at the very beginning, so that's okay. And we're going to be taxiing here via November all the way down here to November 15 and entering runway 18. So pretty straightforward taxi. As for the runway, it's dry, the wind is 160 at 7, so basically a headwind almost. Our config is going to be flaps 20 full power, and our departure SID is going to be the Cindy 3 Lima, which is going to be this one. Basically a straight in, a true track of 179.6, this is basically 180, until 800, then a slight left turn to the first fix, Delta Foxtrot 101 at maximum speed of 220 knots. Now, because I am not on that sim, and I just imagine that in real life it should be probably about the same, we would request faster due to our weight, so we could clean at least to flaps 1 to maintain to 50 knots until 10,000. Then a left turn to Amtix, and then a slight right turn to Cindy. Our transition altitude is 5,000, it's written here in the vertical, and that's about it. Our radio navs are not required because it's an RNAV, no special considerations. And for the abnormals, let's brief this real quick because it's a huge aircraft. So for the rejected takeoff until 80 knots, we stop for any malfunction. Between 80 knots and V1 only for significant ones. In case of a rejected takeoff, I call reject, throttles to idle, apply maximum reverse, let the auto brake work, stop on the runway, set the parking brake, cabin crew at stations, call, advise the ATC, and then assess the situation. In case the failure happens after V1, we continue straight ahead, climbing to at least 4,300, which is the MSA, and then vector ourselves back to land on runway 25 center, which I have the chart here saved if something goes wrong and we need to return. We don't have a takeoff alternate. We could return to Frankfurt, and we will be overweight definitely for the landing. We can jettison fuel with this aircraft. It is simulated and it's working, so depending on the situation we'll look on what to do. So far, no other considerations, no lost comms, and that's the departure briefing complete. Do you guys have any questions? Post them in the comments. Okay, so jetway is disconnected. I'm going to switch on the beacon light. And before start checklist, flight deck door is closed and locked. Passenger signs are on. The MCP is at V2 181, heading 180, altitude 5000. Takeoff speeds are 45, 71, and 81. CDU pre-flight is completed. Trim should be set at 8.3. Let's go and set that 8.3. The trim indication is right here. That is set. The rest is at 0. Taxi takeoff briefing is completed. The beacon is on both. That's the before start checklist. We are fully ready to push and start.
Operation complete. Please set parking brake.
Brakes are set, clear to disconnect.
Disconnecting tow, stand by.
And we're gonna start the engine. So APU is running, bleeds are on. Let's come here to the engine page, starting 3 and 4 first. Okay, we have a good start on number 4 and 3. Let's go for 1 and 2. There's the hand signal. That's a good start on number 1 and 2. APU bleed off. And we're gonna go here to the flaps. 1, 5, 10, and 20. Rest is good. Auto brake is armed. And we do flight control check. Full up. Full down. Neutral. Full left. Full right. Neutral. Rudder full left. Full right. Neutral. Let's go to the checklist. Before taxi checklist. Anti-ice is all on auto. Recall. Checked. Parking brakes set. Auto brakes RTO. Seatbelt sign on. Auto brakes RTO. Flight controls are checked. And ground equipment is clear. Before taxi checklist complete. Lights can come on. Let's go with the strobes on. Transponder TARA. Weather radar is on. I'll do a range of 5. Always make sure that the left is clear, right is clear too, even though I don't think anybody lands here on runway 18. And let's line up. Lights are on. Nice line up. Let's stop here. Before takeoff checklist, flaps 20 set. Before takeoff checklist complete. So we're full ready. Let's go, guys. The adventure begins. We're departing at 13:30 UTC. So let's start it. About 40% stable. Toga. Trust reference. Trust is about set. Airspeed is alive.
80 knots.
Check. Hold.
V1. Rotate. V2.
Positive climb. Gear up. LNAV. Pitch for the 15 degrees. Thrust reference, LNAV, VNAV speed. Just crossed 10,000 feet. Lights coming off. And I think I could remove the VNAV restriction. Let's see. Yep, perfect. So the aircraft will start to accelerate. And I could switch off the anti-ice off as well because we don't need it. Speed check, flaps up. We've hit our cruise altitude. It's fantastic. I'll switch back to VNAV, VNAV path, sync the heading. And well, we didn't get that many bad weather, so I'll switch off the seatbelt sign. So far, so good. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back to the cockpit of the 747. Well, it's been already 11 hours and 18 minutes we are doing this flight. So far so good, some minor issues, but nothing that fortunately breaks our flight. So that's really good. We are about 120 miles to the Japanese coast and about 354 miles out of the calculated top of descent by the plane. I really want to see how it goes, so I'm gonna go with the planned VNAV of the aircraft. So I've been preparing a couple of things, and I think it's a good time to take a look at what to expect on the arrival, to do a so-called arrival briefing, or at least the basic brief. So to start with the arrival briefing, as far for the status of the aircraft, everything has been fine. Only the fuel is a little bit on the low side for my personal preference, but it's been okay. The weather is good apart from the rain that's expected in Tokyo. It's light rain, so no big deal, but anyways, we're going to be careful with that and with the low ceiling. No temps are checked. Anti-ice is going to be on auto, and weather radar will be on. Could be the terrain too, just in case, but the area is pretty much good. Our top of descent is calculated by the computer. It is planned to be in 263 miles with this great ground speed and the jet stream that's been pushing us. We'll get there in no time. Our arrival time, we've already planned it. It's the Oshima 1 kilo arrival, which is going to go direct to Umuki and then Kaiho. Only significant constraint is Anzac at 13,000 feet, above 6,000 on Umuki, Kaiho, and we plan to go for ILS X-ray, runway 34 left at Kaiho, above 4,000 and at 180 knots, and 160 at Ali. Intercept will be at 1,500. With the go-around procedure that we already read. Radio navs are set. Our alternate, for the alternate, we require 9.3 tons of fuel with a final reserve of 4.1. So I really want to be on the final approach with at least 19 tons, 20 tons would be perfect of fuel in case we go missed for at least one more attempt, because otherwise things will get a little bit ugly. Config will be flaps full, in this case flaps 30, and auto brake 3, reverses normal, and exit as planned just before. No special considerations, we are not overweight, we are below our maximum landing weight for this airport, which was the limiting point if you can remember, and no lost comms because we are offline. That's the briefing complete. Let's enjoy the final moments of this flight and then prepare for the descent. Alright, ladies and gentlemen, we have 19 miles to go to top of descent, so let's go reset our MCP altitude to 13,000 and the other descent checklist. So recall checked, we have auto brake 3, notes are checked, auto brake is 3. Landing data, we have VREF of 150 with flaps 30. So VAP is going to be 155, minimums 270 barrels set. Approach briefing is complete. Do you guys have any questions? If so, post those in the comment below. And don't forget to hit a like for those views, because it was beautiful. Even though we have that layer of clouds there, that's definitely going to cover our view into Tokyo, but still, it was worth it. With with the amazing views. Now, just have to monitor for our descent. 8.5 miles to go. Our fuel prediction is 20 tons of fuel. Not bad. Let's see what's what. So I switched to vertical speed mode because I didn't like what the VNAV was doing. So I prefer to control the descent path myself. Try to save a little bit more fuel with a constant descent and less fluctuations, because it was constantly adding power to maintain the speed instead of controlling the speed with the pitch. I've also switched the seatbelt sign on because now as we are getting into the cloudy area, a turbulence can occur. If you remember the significant weather chart that we guys checked, that's definitely one of the things we should be looking for. Just as we passed below flight level 200, our transition level is going to be 140. It's 140 for the entire Japan. I just checked that. I've set the speed at 230 knots for the moment, so I don't forget. I'm trying to dissipate that speed as much as I can without the use of speed brakes. So we're almost 10 miles to Anzac. At 250 knots, I'll give it a little help with the speed brake, just to lose that extra inertia, and then we're going to deploy flaps 1. That will put us right where we want. We are 2000 in altitude. 155, gear is down, flaps full. On the speed brake. Lights coming on. Come on. .55 on the speed, landing checklist. It's going below the path, unfortunately, a little bit, but it should level at 1500. Speed brake is armed, landing gear is down, flaps are 30, green light, landing checklist is complete. Waiting for the level off. And set go around altitude 4,000 feet. Really didn't want to do this level off, but
V1.
that is checked. Come on, Autopilot, you can do it. I'll add 157 there for the turbulence, and there's land 3. 155. Go around altitude 4,000. Perfect speed, localizer glide slope, and we have rollout and flare armed. So far, so good. 2.5 miles, still no runway inside. Oh boy. How many? 12 hours and 21 minutes.
1,000.
Checked, stable. There's the runway inside. Wow, what a view. What a view. Alright, we need the wipers. Yeah, that's the other. Oh, rip, the wipers don't work. That's unfortunate. But that's okay. They wouldn't do much anyways. Alright, I want to wait to get it close to minimums. Wind is coming from the right. Doesn't look back for now. Outer throttle is doing a good job.
400.
Check. Autopilot off. Mike Trolls.
Approaching minimum.
Oh, Jesus, don't do it, please.
200.
Auto throttle off. I hit the toggle button there.
50, 40, 30, 20, 10.
Speed brake up. That was a messy landing. Reverses are normal. And we are decelling. Alright, welcome to Tokyo, guys. That's impressive. 12 hours and something. 19 tons of fuel. Alright, landing lights are off. Strobes are off. Spoilers disarmed. Flaps are up. Auto brake set. Transponder transponding. Weather radar is off. Oh boy. 12 hours and 22 minutes. Alright, taxi light off. There's the marshaller. Oof, that was good. Parking brake is set. Where's the time? Oh, why didn't the clock start? Anyways, we're gonna assume we have 3 minutes on the turbine cooldown, so I'll go APU. APU Gen 1 and 2 on, and we're gonna switch off the engines. Passenger seatbelt sign off. Flight deck door unlocked. Transponder standby. 2000 is set. And beacon light can come off. Anti-ice is off. Hydraulics, this goes to auxiliary. That's good. Let's do the shutdown checklist. Hydron panel is set. Fuel pumps. Oh yes, the fuel pumps are off. Flaps are up. Parking brake is set. Fuel control switches are cut off, and weather radar is off. Shutdown checklist is complete. Well, guys, that's been it. This was a very interesting flight. Thanks for coming along. Hope you guys enjoyed this long haul. This is actually a little bit more challenging than I was anticipating, but I loved it. Thank you very much for watching. Don't forget to hit the like, subscribe, and we're gonna see you soon for another video. Stay safe, stay awesome. Bye.